Join us as we discuss the Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena, in the next episode of the Time Hop Podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Time Hop Podcast. I'm your host, David Lozada. I'm joined with Tim Ronan.
Hello.
In case you don't know, the Time Hop Podcast is a podcast that plays games of the past to let you know if they're worth playing. Today's episode is all about Vin Diesel, the Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena, which originally released on April 7th, 2009 for PS3, Xbox 360, and PC. But before we get into that, Tim, how you doing this week?
Good. I didn't realize that that Chronicles of Riddick was a movie as well.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, so I was looking it up and I was like, wait, oh, okay, it's a movie. Which makes certain things about the game make sense. Like
Yeah.
the fact that, I mean, for one thing, that has Vin Diesel in it, but also that there's like plenty of moments where he's like something one line or something. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I see.
It is cinematic. It borrows a lot from cinema, I think. And the voice acting too is very reminiscent, just in general with all the characters, very reminiscent of movies and cheesy lines.
Yeah. Did you ever seen the movie
I have not.
version of it? Or, I haven't either. Just curious.
I think this was around the same time that Vin Diesel was kind of doing, like, he wasn't as famous as he is now. I think he was doing like he was just getting started with Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
I think. This was 2009, so it must have been like 2007. I think Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious came out around there, and then like Fast 5 came out in I want to say like 2012, 2013, and that was a really good one. That was a really good Fast and Furious one, and then like his career just skyrocketed from there. So
Aren't there like 7 of those?
yeah,
Or
I think there are
something?
8 now.
8?
Yeah.
What are they about? I've actually never seen one.
Really?
Is it just yeah, somehow I haven't. Is it just about cars and being really mad?
Kind of.
Furious at things or whatever.
Well,
I'm driving and I'm mad.
right.
Fast and Furious.
Well, yes and no. I mean, the car thing, yeah, totally. I think cars are like in every single movie.
I mean, they're usually on like the cover, like
Right.
posters for it.
Yeah.
So I imagine it has to do something with cars. That much I can put together.
Mm-hmm. But it's also about I don't know. I don't know if it's always been this way because I haven't seen all of them. I've seen maybe 2 or 3, and I went to the ride in Universal Studios. If that counts for anything. But I think like after like around 5, it was kind of like more crime focused, and before then it was more kind of like just racing on the streets, if that makes any sense. So, and it like the whole continuum is all messed up because like people die, but then they come back for some reason, and it's never really explained why, or like, you know, it's just like getting actors and actresses, like big name actors and actresses in the movie just because they're big name actors and actresses, and then that's really the whole premise of every Fast and Furious movie. It's just having as many famous names as they possibly can. It's completely adrenaline fueled, however you want to use that word. You know, not I don't think it's our cup of tea, Tim. We're much more
much more refined or whatever.
I was gonna
I
say
like a good
I was gonna say plain and boring.
plain. Calling me basic?
Okay, I'll call myself basic. I won't speak for Tim. Tim
I'll
plays
have you know that
Minecraft.
I'm at least a chocolate chip cookie, not a
There you
plain
go.
cookie.
There you go.
My goodness.
There you go. Moving on to news. Before we go back to the past, let's explore the present. Tim, what's your news story this week?
Well, before I go to the main one, I want to share something else I found, which I found funny. I guess in Pokemon Go, they for like an April Fool's Day thing, they released a Pikachu. Well, I think back like a year ago, they released a Pikachu that had like this cap on, like the cap that Ash wears, like in the first season of the anime, or maybe the second season as well. But like his original cap. Do you know the
Yeah.
one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So they released a Pikachu that you could find that has that hat, and I guess it always wears it. It's like a special version of Pikachu. So they brought it back this year, but it's just the way. This is kind of a pointless thing I'm sharing, but I found it funny. But the way the article worded it is Pokemon Go brings back Ash hat Pikachu for April Fool's Day. And it just dawned on me that you have to be very careful of how you say that. It just really, that got me. That killed me.
What publication was
That's
that?
funny. That was GameSpot.
That's good, man. That's really good.
So, yeah. It's like Nintendo
They must
would
have done
not
it on
like
purpose, though. I mean, it's GameSpot. I mean, come on.
that.
I mean,
Yeah,
I would
don't
hope
know.
so. I mean, because it's April Fool's, it's all about having fun. So I think
Yeah, maybe. But
that's
I just found that
funny.
very funny.
I didn't see that story. That's funny, dude. That's really good. Some of our
Yeah.
maybe we should go over some of our favorite April Fool's Day pranks.
No, I was just trying to remember some of them. Wasn't there like there was a Nintendo Direct April Fools? I
Yeah,
actually didn't
IGN
watch
did that
that.
one. Yeah.
Was it like an actual legit
No,
Nintendo Direct by Nintendo that was a joke, or was it? It was done by IGN.
it was done by IGN. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess in For Honor they had Rabbids. Like
I was
it's a
gonna bring that
Ubisoft
one up. Yeah.
game. Yeah, there's that one, which is very silly and a lot of effort.
There was one where you could play Final Fantasy 14. Like they had the Google, not Google Home, the like Alexa thing, or I think it was Google Home, and you could get like a Final Fantasy 14 character, and it would be like your Google Home assistant
Yeah,
type of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
That one was pretty
You know
cool.
that one.
What's another one? I did actually on over on Game Revolution. I did a roundup of like the best April Fool's Day pranks that like game makers have made in recent memory. So that was really fun to write. And it wasn't this year, but some of my favorite ones were like Choco Go. Like Square Enix does some good stuff. Choco Go, which was like this app that you could order like chocobos to come, and they'll pick you up wherever you may be. It's kind of funny, It's like silly, really stupid, silly stuff that's just perfect for April Fools. Not too serious, not too.
I think the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter made like an announcement about an April Fool's thing about like Sonic Battle Royale. I think that
Oh
was a thing.
yeah, yeah, I did
It's
see that.
actually a funny Twitter feed to follow.
Yeah, I
And
follow it on Twitter. That's a
mhm.
great one. Yeah.
There was, well, I think it's still going on actually. A Rainbow Six unicorn rainbow Pink something or other. I'm not sure
Oh
what it
yeah,
is.
yeah. Mm-hmm. It was pretty funny. Like just in general, this April
Yeah.
this April Fools was pretty good. They
Mm.
had some good stuff.
Speaking, uh, very great segue into my actual news, um, and which is not an April Fool's joke, but I think people were hoping it would have been, is that Borderlands 3 is going to be a Epic Store exclusive, which I think was rumored. There was the release date was leaked before yesterday when it was supposed to be like formally announced, and along with that, it seemed like it. I mean, in general, people were worrying it'd be an Epic Store exclusive,
Right.
because I believe the game does use the Unreal Engine. Um,
Mm-hmm. Unreal 4, I believe.
yeah, I think so. Um, but then because of the leak, it seemed like that'd be even more of the case, and then of course now it is definitely the case. So people aren't happy about that.
For
Definitely
sure.
not,
Yeah.
considering it's a big game, been anticipated for many years, and of course the previous ones are on Steam, so people, would still like it to be there. On top of Epic not being as the launcher not being as feature complete, and um, this has led also people to start review bombing the other games on Steam, as
Mm-hmm.
you do. Yeah, it's not going too well with that, and it's going to be a 6-month exclusive on the Epic launcher until it comes to Steam and other platforms.
Yeah.
So,
You know, I I'm starting to think that this is the vocal minority because and I know whomever is listening, I don't mean to offend whomever is listening, but I feel that way because the Metro Exodus, when this happened with Metro Exodus, they people were threatening, I'm boycotting this, I'm not buying this game at launch, and et cetera, et cetera. And then, the sales numbers for that game came out, and it was one of the best selling, if not the best selling one in the franchise. It sold really well. So I don't think that the mass consumer audience is really, that really cares, to be honest. That's just my take on it. I'm not a PC gamer. I don't. That's not my primary platform of play. But Tim, what do you think about it?
I'm almost in the same boat because I usually don't buy games recently, like right when they come out. I guess I wait a little bit. Um, and I also don't have a great PC, so that might not always be my first choice of the type of platform I buy for. But
It's
I don't
tricky.
know. People aren't okay with the fact that we're basically having console wars, more or less,
Yeah.
starting to come from this, um, and being forced to go to something over the other, like to one launcher versus another, when that launcher is like lacking in some even basic features that Steam has. Um, Things like a shopping cart, for example. And then Epic's been accused of stealing, looking at people's information, and they're not so great things. So I think what people don't like is being forced to go to one over the other, whereas if it was available on both Steam and the Epic launcher, but then it comes down to a matter of incentive. Like, what does this offer positively over the other, rather than like a negative, like, well, this store doesn't happen at all because it was taken away from that store.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I see what you mean.
I don't know. I I guess I don't have personal investment and bias in this, I guess. But
Right.
I do understand why people don't like being forced to go with one over the other just because
Hmm.
it's just flat out not available.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not Fortnite is obviously only available on the launcher, but that's also their game. It's
Hmm.
not like in the case of Borderlands, it was like a third party type deal.
Right.
So to force it to be on one platform could be frustrating.
The thing I don't understand, and again, this is because of my ignorance of the PC platform, but why is it such a big deal to just download, the Epic Games launcher and just get the game through there? I don't understand why, like, it's such a, like, is it like such a time consuming thing? I mean, it's the same hardware that you're using, you're just kind of, it's just an extra step. I mean, that's a pain in the ass for sure. Not a pain in the ass, it's an inconvenience, but it's not a complete pain in the ass. I mean, it's not like spending $400 for a console to get a game that you can't get anywhere else. So I don't really understand why people are so livid, because it's like, it's the same hardware. It's still compatible on your PC. You don't have to do anything really. It's still kind of free in the sense that it doesn't cost it doesn't cost you to more to get this other platform. So I don't understand the reasoning there. I don't understand the logic, or why people are mad. It's just inconvenience.
Yeah, I mean, it's true that you don't have to buy, in the case of if you had an Xbox and something was PS4 exclusive, that mean you have to go and buy PS4. But um, I think it just comes down to a matter of Epic maybe doing some perceivably underhanded type stuff
Right.
and forcing consumers down a road rather than they're taking away rather than making an incentive, and maybe not doing a good job at showing goodwill
I,
on top of not having a feature complete launcher versus one Steam that's been around for like what 10, 12, whatever, how many
yeah.
years, a very long time at this point.
Hmm.
And things like Metro was supposed to be on Steam, but then
It was
it was
taken
within the
away.
last, yeah, within 3 weeks or something up to launch, it was whoops, it's not going to be on Steam, it's going to be on here instead. And I mean,
The same thing with the Division 2.
yeah, I mean, when you think about it, sure, it's oh well, it just means instead of getting game from A, you get it from B, but I don't have to do anything. Maybe make an Epic account, but it maybe perceivably shouldn't be a big deal. But I
Yeah.
think in the context of everything that's happened and the things that Epic has been accused of doing, and taking Steam files and using that for their Friends integration feature or something or other.
Oh
I'm not
wow, really?
very well versed on. I'm not. Don't quote me on that because I'm not well versed on that. But
That is
um,
sneaky, yeah.
people just aren't happy with the way they've been doing things. If they hadn't done some of that stuff, if they had more features, if they weren't forcing people to choose and offer something unique, for example, they are doing a thing right now for, I mean, for the foreseeable future where they give 2 free games a month or every 2 weeks or something.
Hmm.
And I mean, that's pretty good incentive and definitely not something that Steam does. So if we saw more stuff like that added goodwill, I think we'd see people maybe not be as upset about this. I
Right.
mean, and like I can definitely understand wanting to have all your stuff in one place because I don't have a ton of PC games, but I do have some in different places that I actually completely forget about because I mean I do I pretty much primarily use Steam, but it is good to have some competition out there,
Yeah.
have some differentiation and different things that offer unique perks and stuff.
Yeah,
But
that was my argument was like, I mean, this is a business. Like, are people so ignorant to how businesses work and how competition works that I don't know. It seems foolish to me to think that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to like I don't mean to demean you, Tim, or anybody listening to this, but it just seems foolish to me to think that you know that Epic Game Store would like this whole argument about like taking things away and not like that's competition, honey. Like that's how it's always worked. It's you incentivize publishers and developers to release on your platform, and that's just the way it works. And you take away from you it's called market share. And right now Valve have most of the PC market share, right? But Epic Game Store is coming along and they're eating away at their market share. That's all it is. I mean that's how a competition works. It's all about eating as much market share as you can. So I don't really understand. I don't understand. Like, yeah, the goodwill. Okay, I understand that sentiment. You have to build a community. Okay, and I also understand the sentiment of the fact that Epic Game Store is an unfinished product because it is. I've seen it. It is an unfinished product. There are a lot of things that need work there, but criticize those elements as opposed to criticizing things like you know developers and publishers going to another platform just so that they could make more profit. I mean, they make game like that's why do you think people make games? Like that's primarily the goal is so that they can make money, so that they could live and they could feed their families. Like, duh. So like I don't understand why. I don't know. I don't know. I understand. I understand. Yeah, I do understand the argument. I do understand it for sure, but it just seems very nonsensical to me, personally. That's all.
I think maybe in summation, it's not that they're doing it, maybe, but the way that they're doing it.
Yeah, I get that. I get it. It's like it's a little shady. Like even before I said like the whole copycat stuff. I get that. I don't feel like you should attack developers and publishers for it. Attack the store itself. Attack the company itself. For it having these bad policies and these lackluster features on their platform. I don't think it has anything to do with the developers and publishers who are supporting it. I think it has to primarily do with the platform holder, which is Epic Games. So that's who you should be criticizing, not.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I have to say. That's my opinion on it. People could have different opinions. I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong. It's just this is a very controversial subject in the industry right now, and I'm just maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture here, but it just again it just doesn't seem like something that is as momentous as or as controversial rather than people are saying or people are claiming it is. Anyway, that was a lot about Borderlands 3, but it's got I'm about to add a lot more with Anthem. So
Oh
recently,
yeah, it's a
yeah.
whole separate thing.
This is a lot of news this week, guys. Kotaku recently ran an article. Jason Schreier over at Kotaku ran this article about Anthem, and he basically interviewed a lot of developers, a lot of ex-developers, a lot of just staff at the company as to what was going on in the development process of Anthem, and needless to say, it was not a good process. It wasn't things didn't turn out very well. Tim, I'm gonna ask you to help me because I know you're a bit familiar with this. I'm gonna ask you to help me run down things that this piece kind of exposed. So I'll go first, and you'll catch anything I missed. So the first thing that stuck out to me, and one of the most jarring things, is the fact that development for this game began in 2012. 2012. So that means that they've been developing it for 7 years, and they produced what we have today. And from what I recall, from roughly 2012 to 2017, that was all pre-production. So that was just concept art, drafting dialogue, drafting storylines, all that Michigas. That was just for 5 years. The real development, the real nitty gritty of it began in 2017, which means they had about what in the middle of 2017. So they had about a little more than a year and a half to actually build the game, which is impressive when you consider what we've got, because a year and a half is not a long time. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is that this game was revealed at E3 2017. E3 2017. When we as viewers saw that build, that was when the team at BioWare, I think, was this Edmonton? I think this was BioWare Edmonton that developed this game. That was the blueprint. That was just the blueprint that they were going to use to build the game. So they didn't even know. They didn't even know what the game was about, what they were doing, blah, 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 blah. That was the beginning of it. So there was no anything else behind it outside of that. Number three was the fact that they consulted the studio, the arm of the company, BioWare. I don't remember their division in Texas, BioWare Austin, I think it is, and who worked on Star Wars: of the Old Republic, mind you. I believe Austin offered to help with the online elements because they were familiar with building a functional MMO experience, and the team over who was making the game, they basically denied them and they said, no, we don't want your help. So that's the third revelation. Let me think of the fourth revelation. Is that they basically purposefully put grinding sections towards the later end of the game just to extend the how long it would take for people to get to the end game. So they purposely did that, and they admit that. And then the fifth, which is one of the most concerning, I think, is that a lot of developers and leaders, actually, a lot of the leaders, like the principal art director, designer, I believe, the head writer, all of those people, they just left halfway through development because there was no clear concept until a year and a half ago, which is just mind-boggling. And then when you read the Kotaku comments, I think I believe they did a follow-up piece today, and a lot of developers who they were anonymous, they said, just swap the name out, put my company in, and it's the same story, which is amazing to me. That's wow. That shows that the industry really is. Yeah, that's basically all that comes to mind right now. Tim, is there anything there that I missed?
It's a massive article.
It takes about an hour to read it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I really need to sit down and read it myself. I've watched some videos on it. People basically condensing it down to a bit more of a bite-sized piece, but it's a ton of stuff here. So much.
Mm-hmm.
Some shocking things. But I think a lot that people maybe suspected was the case.
Yeah.
Like feeling it was not, like it was kind of thrown together haphazardly, or
Yeah.
things like I think you mentioned you watched the Angry Joe
Yeah.
show thing on it. I think at some point they were talking about Um, this really infamous part of the game where you're like trying to find these chests, like open these ruins and do
Uh-huh.
that stuff. And I think they, and I, probably a lot of people suspect that was like padding for the
Mm-hmm.
game, like to keep you
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
stuff for a while. And I believe uh, Joe in his video said that that was the case.
Yeah, they did
It
confirm
was
that.
meant it was meant to pad the game and make players spend a while on that.
Yeah. Yep. They did confirm because they had no content. They had no time to build
Yeah,
an actual narrative. So they just kind of were like, let's just pad everything. Oh, another thing I forgot was the 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 narrative itself was just completely just disjointed. So like at some parts
yeah,
in the game, like you could talk to characters and they mention something and you're like, what are you even talking about? And
right.
the reason why that is because they had no time to kind of organize it all. And then I think another thing that I remember is that they had no time to like options like the dialogue trees. So like you either had to, you know, from one character to the next and kind of do it in order or like the game's true order, let's say. And if you didn't do that, then everything would be out of sync and you wouldn't know what the hell is going on.
I can't quite remember the string of events, but basically they had flying in the game, but then they like took it out and like put it back
Yeah.
in or something like that because they were trying to like please the head boss, whatever their name
Peter
was.
Sutherland, yeah, or whatever his
Yeah,
name. Yeah,
I think so. I think that that may have involved like redoing how the levels and like environment was designed to fit to to suit having flying, and then oh wait no, just kidding. Okay, so we have to change the level design so that's suited for not being able to fly, but they put it back in, so then you have to like re put it together and
yeah.
just stuff like that.
Can you imagine how much of a pain in the ass that must have been? Like to be like you're in the concept phase and you're like, okay, let's like design this one level where it's like it's not as big, to accommodate flying, but it is lush, it is like whatever. And then your CEO of the company comes and he's like, no, you need to put some, there needs to be some kind of more grabbing element in this, and then you have to completely redesign it, and then so and so says, ah, no, take it out again, because I believe that's what happened. Like, there was like a back and forth, and they had to like design it again, and then they had to do it again. So it's like, what? Like, and by the way, this guy, I believe Sony was the one years ago that they said like most companies when they're preparing for E3, they do it like months in advance. Like, I'm talking like by the year before, everything's almost set in stone. So like I guess this isn't the case for EA because that guy Peter, like, he played the game 2 months before, like in let's say April. He played the game in April. He played that demo, and then that's when in 2017, and then in E3 2 months later is when they showcased it at their show.
Mm-hmm.
That's like crazy to me. Like, that's just like, what? Like, like, how do you even do that? I don't understand. I don't understand how, like, you're planning out a big show. It's your biggest show of the year, and you don't have that. You're still concepting. You're still like demoing stuff like that far out. I don't know. It's mind-boggling to me because in my day job, like, we do events all the time, and I can assure you, we have an event next month in May, in the middle of May, and I can assure you, like, we've been planning this since December. It takes a lot of time to plan any event, so I don't understand what was going on there. It's just bizarre to me.
Yeah, I guess you just chalk up what happened to just not a lot of organization or like a point of focus. Um, Maybe some leadership issues, indecision,
Yeah.
just not having a totally clear vision for some reason of what they wanted to make, and
Hmm.
just everything snowballing from there, I guess. It was supposed to be like reading some of their original concepts here. It's like was kind of supposed to be like a dangerous planet at first,
Hmm.
kind of like filled with powerful creatures, and I guess some people described it as being kind of Dark Soulsy. It's like, well, that sounds pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm biased because I love Dark Souls, but regardless, that sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, I heard that it's supposed to, this sounds cool. Like this was a really cool concept. It was supposed to be like the concept of the Bermuda Triangle, how like everything gets lost there.
Yeah,
How like
yeah.
this
No,
was
okay,
supposed to
yeah,
be the Bermuda Triangle of the universe. So like everything
exactly.
that
Yeah,
was lost in the universe would be here in this world,
that's pretty
which
cool.
is
That's pretty
so
freaking cool.
freaking cool, dude. That is so cool. That is an awesome
Yeah,
concept.
I like that idea a lot.
And
That's
it
pretty
would go
cool.
so well with the whole theme of like the games as a service model type of thing, because like it would give you an excuse to just drop in like new creatures, drop in new things, like any because like you have these voids open up and it's just dropping shit all the time, it's just it would work so well with with EA's whole shtick, but they didn't go with it, and I don't understand why. They had it, dude. Like they had it. I would have bought that game, you know, even if it was games as a
Yeah.
service type of thing. That's just a really freaking cool concept that's never been done in video games before, and I don't understand why, But maybe now it will, because now people know about it. So it was kind of like No Man's Sky. Like No Man's Sky was like very explore is very exploratory and blah blah blah, but it's still an indie game. It's still kind of very rudimentary in its gameplay design and stuff like that. But this was a game developed by BioWare. So much missed potential. It makes my heart hurt kind of, because it's like, why
Yeah,
you had 7 years to do this.
it's a lot to unpack.
I know. But you know what? Hopefully, Dragon Age is fine, and hopefully they haven't been haven't been doing too much concept. They haven't devoted too much time to that, and they're actually developing the game now. So, yeah. Well, hopefully
Yeah,
it turns out fine. That's all I have to say.
hopefully, yeah, hopefully this is, you know, lessons learned, so it doesn't hopefully happen again
Yep.
later. But
I totally agree. I totally agree. Okay, so let's move on to the topic of the show. Today's topic is all about the Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena, which originally released on April 7th, 2009 for PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC. So, in case you couldn't tell from our very lengthy talk about Vin Diesel earlier, the Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena stars Vin Diesel, and it's probably best known for its voice acting, because it does include his voice, and it includes voices from other famous voice actors in the industry, like Nolan North is in this, bizarrely enough, and I don't remember who else, but other prominent voice actors in the industry. And it was developed by Starbreeze Studios, which, if you don't know, they were the ones that were responsible for, I think, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. So this was way back when, and Payday, in the Payday series, So this is a pretty accomplished developer. It came bundled with Escape from Butcher Bay, which was the prequel to this. So basically, if you bought this game, it came with like an HD remaster, like right in the box, which is pretty cool. And they didn't charge
yeah, that's
extra for
pretty
it.
generous.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Today it's best known for its aforementioned voice acting, and also because it's just a really good licensed game. You know, this was before the time of Batman Arkham Asylum, so we didn't really have a lot of good games. I mean, the only other thing that comes to mind is Avatar, which was it was good. You know, the game based off the movie, that was an okay game too. But this is better than that.
Sorry, there was a game for based off Avatar?
Yeah, there was. It was pretty good.
No,
Yeah,
didn't know that.
it was a pretty good game. It had a really cool like on multiplayer mode, as does this game.
Huh.
Yeah,
Wasn't there... Sorry, last derail until we get back to the thing, but wasn't there supposed to be like sequels to that movie?
yeah,
But there
they're
haven't
still
been
coming.
for like 7 years or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. James Cameron's still working on them. He always gets like sidetracked. He's always like, "Yeah, but I want to do this other thing," or you know, like I don't know. I feel like he's always like venturing into side projects and stuff and that. But there's supposed to be, I think, four more Avatar movies.
Really?
Yeah,
Jeez. Better
yeah.
get cracking, buddy. At
The
this rate.
next one's supposed to be underwater. I don't understand how they're gonna do that, but yeah, it's supposed to be underwater, and it's supposed to release, I think, next year. But that's what they always say. They've been saying this
Yeah.
from like 2017. Like they've been like, yeah, but it's coming next year for sure. And and then nothing, nobody hears anything. And then James Cameron like pops up again. He's like, yeah, no, yeah, it's coming next year.
Yeah, no, it's coming.
We
It's
meant
coming.
we meant the year after.
Don't
We meant the
worry.
year after. Yeah, yeah,
Did I
yeah,
say 2019? I meant 2021.
yeah.
Sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena. Not something that usually comes to mind when you think of classic games for sure, but this was something that at the time of its release was pretty well received by critics, and I think it sold well too. Starbreeze, you know, it they became a publisher after this, so they it really helped them financially. So without further ado, Tim, what do you think of this game's presentation? Do you think it's noteworthy in that regard?
From what I see, I guess it kind of reminds me of, I don't know, your kind of like first person shooter that has like kind of a samey-ish color scheme. Because do you spend the entire game on just a ship in space,
Yeah,
or are there other locations you go to?
no, you're basically on one ship.
Okay,
It's called the Dark Athena, pretty much.
right, yeah, yeah. I mean, I saw like the first 40, 50-ish minutes, I think, of the game. So from what I saw, it's like kind of mostly grays and
Yeah,
maybe some browns and like some dark shadows and stuff. I mean, the animations, from what I saw, were actually pretty good. Some of the faces of people are a little scary and
yeah.
not. They're a little. They're a little weird. Like there's this little girl you meet at one point.
Oh no, yeah, I
She's
know
a
that
little.
one.
She's a little freaky. It's like, don't look at me. Please don't look at me. Yeah, I don't know. Some of that doesn't work so well.
They remind me
Um,
of like RPGs, how like they have like these blank faces, or like they don't really have any emotion to them. You know what I'm saying? They don't move, like they
yeah,
don't.
yeah, a little bit.
I don't know. It is weird, but that's like that's kind of like the game, you know. Like it's kind of emotionless, you know. Even to your point about like the dark hues and like the dark, just dark everything, you know. Like Vin Diesel himself, Riddick himself, he's kind of like he is like a stoic character, but like he shows signs of like caring for people every now. Like I basically, I should have summed this up before, but basically the narrative of the game is like this ship called the Dark Athena basically just gobbles up ships like they're in space, obviously, and they get the passengers of the ship and they basically like harness their body parts or something. Like they turn them into cyborgs, and it's kind of like Soma. Are you familiar with Soma, Tim?
What's that?
Oh, okay. So it's a survival horror game. It didn't come out too long ago, where basically like you're in this weird facility or something, and like there's a AI that is like converting all organic matter into AI too, like into machinery. It's like all like human beings, all animals and stuff are like being turned into machines, and it's a similar concept in Riddick, where it's kind of like not necessarily that they're being turned into machines, but I think they're more like harvesting these people's body parts for machines, or I don't know, something of that nature. So basically, the point is that they're looking to harness, these people's like body parts, and like Vin Diesel sometimes catches these people when they're almost about to die, and they have like wires inside of them and stuff, and they're like, hey, could you do this thing for me? And Vin Diesel's like, yeah, okay. Like he like agrees to them, and he said like, listen, man, I'm sorry that you're gonna die, but I'll still do this thing for you. I think that's the storyline with the little girl, actually. Like someone says, take care of the little girl.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, okay, and he does it. But like the way that he does it, it's hard to explain. He's like, yeah, oh yeah, I'm sorry about what happened, but I'll do what you say. Don't worry about it. He's kind of like gruff. Vin Diesel in general is a gruff guy, so I think he kind of nails the character. That's just the character himself. But I agree with you, Tim, in the sense that this is a very FPS game. Like this was before the time that I think we started complaining about colorless first-person shooter games. To be honest.
Yeah. It feels like it's kind of around the same time as like Gears of War and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like even like Halo at the time was like Halo 3 when I remember it. It's kind of dull, there's not like, there are colors here and there, but like for some reason everything's like muddy in the first 3 Halos, and no one really kind of cared about it, but then people started caring more as like graphically we became more sophisticated, especially with first person shooters, because it's kind of a staple of the genre at this point. Presentations are a staple of the genre, so like there are no other mechanics that to find in the first person shooter aside from just pointing at something and shooting at it. So you kind of have to have something more to immerse players in the world better. But let's move on to the game's actual gameplay. Tim, what did you think of that? Do you also think it's generic?
I think I may have gotten that impression at some point. Well, okay, so like I mentioned, like I think at the top of the podcast, there's a lot of moments where he's like, I actually wrote some of these down. These things he'll say.
Oh,
it's like,
boy.
they know I'm here. A fearful enemy is one prone to make mistakes, ones that can be easily exploited. And it's like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes, like I mean, like games can do that if they can like really like it's kind of like Saints Row was like, right? It could be like super cheesy and like ridiculous, and other games like it's okay for games to do that. It's not like they can't, but I don't know. Sometimes it's maybe a little cheesy here, or like he rips out this guy's tooth at one point, and he's like, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and the tools I need.
Does he actually do that?
He does say that.
Oh my god.
I feel like people would like, some people could be really into that, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But it is a little bit cheesy.
Oh
it's
my
like,
god, dude.
Suddenly the fact that it was like there was a movie and then this was a game kind of based in that. It was like, okay, this makes sense in that context, why this is happening to me right now.
Oh my god.
And he's saying these things. So, I mean, sometimes he'll say things like, just normal things like, oh, these prisoners might know stuff. It's like, okay, that's useful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
and other times he's like, "You're dead now." I laugh at that or whatever.
I think
Um,
at one point when he's with the little girl, he goes like, the little girl's like, "Oh, but there are monsters out there," and he goes, "Well, now the monsters have something to
yeah,
fear,"
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
He says
Exactly.
something like that, and I'm like, "Oh my god, like, are you serious?"
Can you help me? I could, but usually the people I help wind up dead.
Yeah, yes, yeah, like very generic stuff like that. But
Mm.
getting to the gameplay, I feel like it is in this sense very bro centric. I don't really know
Yeah,
how else to kind of to phrase it. It's just it's very like adrenaline rush. It's very like you pick up a gun and you shoot not hordes of enemies but waves of enemies for sure, and it does get annoying at points because the checkpoints in the games are very sporadic. So like you go down a corridor or you start at one end of the corridor and like you shoot you kill a bunch of guys and then you get to the opposite end and there's a checkpoint, but then after that it's kind of like you have to defeat waves upon waves of enemies and navigate multiple corridors until you finally reach the next checkpoint. So it's kind of bizarre, the pacing there. I don't really know if that was. I don't think it was purposeful. I think it was kind of just bad design choice there. But to their credit, I think that to Starbreeze Studios' credit, I think what they did manage to successfully pull off with the gameplay is the variety, because I saw a lot of different types of gameplay here. Like there was an on rail section, there was like a robot mech section, which was pretty cool because you got to like just sweep all of these dudes down. There's also like it switches to third person whenever you're like in platforming segments, which could be jarring for sure. But it reminds me of like Metroid Other M or like games like that where it seems jarring in concept, but it really isn't. It's just it's kind of cool and it kind of opens up the world a little more and lets you see the entire environment. Things like that I feel like are good kind of changes of pace because you could be like shooting scores and scores of enemies and then you get to the end of it and you'd be so tired of it, but just as you become tired of it there's an on rail section, there's a robot section, mech section where you're just mowing down people. So it does a good job of kind of like keeping things fast paced and keeping things excited. So I think it deserves some kind of acknowledgement of that. But if you played a first person game before, first person shooter game before, then you know what to expect here. I mean, come on. This isn't the mechanics here aren't as tight as Call of Duty. They aren't as tight as Battlefield. Sometimes actually feel like the visuals throw it off a little bit. Did you get that sense, Tim, when you were watching it or playing it?
throw off how exactly?
Because so it's kind of like it feels cinematic, but it's also like the gun movement feels like slow or delayed. I feel like I don't know how to explain it. Like when they would be fire, like it would take time for it to hit the enemy. It wouldn't be immediate. At least from what I saw of it. At least from what I saw of on YouTube, it just seemed a little odd.
I don't know. Maybe I didn't. I can't say I got that impression, but
Oh, okay. All
it,
right. Maybe it was just the guy. Maybe it was just his PC wasn't up to par. But yeah, I got the impression that the gameplay wasn't really masterpiece. It isn't revolutionary in that regard. Uh, moving on.
one
Yeah.
thing, one other thing I noticed is that the AI wasn't always so great. Like you
Uh,
could sometimes like walk up to them, or well, maybe not walk, but you could sneak up to them. Which I mean, sure you're sneaking, but just because you're crouching doesn't mean they shouldn't be able to see you.
yeah.
Or like at one point, like the guy I was watching like climbed up onto a ledge, and a guard was like right there, like on the side, like coming towards him. But then he like turned around
Oh,
as like he
jeez.
was coming up. And it's like, all right, So sometimes it wasn't always the greatest.
I didn't notice those parts, but I take your word for it. I mean, again, this isn't the most polished game in general in terms of gameplay, but they have like the fundamentals down. They just kind of have to improve on them. Or if they listen, I don't think there's gonna be a Riddick game anytime soon, but I'm just saying, I think that's what they needed to do, is just add a little more, a little layer of polish. What do you think of the sound design of the game, Tim? Because I think that this is the best aspect of the game.
I think it sounded actually a bit kind of samey to me.
Oh, okay.
I decided to put on the OST for the hour or so that it runs for, kind of just taking note of kind of each of the mood of the songs and tracks. I mean, a lot of it, pretty much like the vast majority of it, is like sort of lower energy, like atmospheric, dark kind of stuff, which, I mean, it's obviously fitting because that's kind of like, it's like the theme kind of the game, right? Like
Right.
the darkness and all that. But I don't know. I think it kind of blended together sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually 21 different tracks in total. Well, we'll say 20 minus the end credits, because I don't know. I think the end credits might take pieces from the other ones. But so there's 20 different tracks, but it feels like some of them just kind of sound similar,
Right.
or can like kind of blend, and maybe didn't like stand out to me,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah. I totally agree with you in that sense. Like, this isn't Metroid, that the first thing that comes to mind, even just thinking about the concept of the game, is like being stranded in space, being like, not on a planet per se, but in this environment, this isolated environment with nothing but enemies looking for you. It does remind me of Metroid in its isolation and its darkness and its sci-fi themes, but it never gets to the point where like it evokes the same. It doesn't evoke that same nostalgia of being like on a space station and not knowing what the hell is going on. And I don't know if that's just because this is a Riddick game and it's based off of a license that not many people know about. If it's just because this is like a very bro shooter kind of game, and it doesn't really vibe well with that whole concept. I don't really know. I can't really place my my opinion there, but it definitely doesn't get to that point where you're like, wow, this is so immersive. Like the music is so immersive. But why I think sound design is its best aspect is its voice acting, because I do agree with the critics when they said that the voice acting was very good, because
I would
it
agree with that
is.
as well.
The antagonist, I don't remember her name, but she's like really good. She's very convincing. It's very cinematic. And then
Revis, the captain.
yeah, Revis. Yeah. There you go. She's really convincing. She's really good. And of course, Vin Diesel. He's just I don't know, man. Like
He's Vin Diesel.
he's. I think Vin Diesel is like almost a better voice actor than he is an actual actor. He's good, at doing because his voice is so distinctive. It's so commanding. So I feel like I think that immediately kind of draws you in. It's not like a generic kind of it's not like Captain Price from the Modern Warfare games, or like I don't know, like Soap McTavish or whatever, like where it's just like this guy who's like this masculine guy voice. He's like, his voice is very distinctive. It's very like deep and like, right away, okay, like this guy is like, he means something, like he means business, and I really like that about this game, and I really applaud Starbreeze for getting him to come on and doing that, because it's really what makes the game for me. What makes it so memorable, and what really adds to its cinematic kind of charm. Because otherwise, it just kind of looked weird. I mean, it just kind of be more or less another licensed game, aside from the few gameplay mechanics that make it worthwhile. So, Tim, what do you think of its appeal? What do you think it's worth playing today?
Personally, I might take a pass to it.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really grip me too much, and in some ways it felt, I guess it just reminded me of that. I don't know if this makes sense. It reminds me of like the type of game it is, like in some ways maybe a little generic.
Yeah.
And maybe just not something I'd be interested in.
Yeah. I totally understand what you mean. I mean, for me, like, I don't know anything about this world. I don't know anything about this universe, and there's no incentive for me to learn about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't something like that's a classic, like the Alien franchise. This isn't something like Dead Space that I know of. It's kind of like it's a movie franchise starring Vin Diesel, and I think that's as much as that is like its biggest advantage in my opinion. I also think that it's also a flaw, because it's like people automatically associate it with his franchise, with his movies, and with his work. So it's kind of like if they don't have a point of reference, they're kind of lost, and they don't really want to try. And that's exactly how I feel. I feel like I don't really want to try it because I don't really care. Truthfully, I don't care about this universe. I don't care about these characters. So it doesn't really grip me in that sense. But I do say that its voice acting is like so good that I hope some studios look back to it. Anthem, look back to it and they're like, okay, let's get voice actors like this who could command voices like this, who are unique. Anyway, that about wraps up our impressions of the Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena. Thank you for joining us for this topic of the show. Join us next week as we discuss Ubisoft's Child of Light, which originally released for PC, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Wii U on April 29th and 30th in 2014. A bit more recent entry, I think, but this is a really important game, especially for Ubisoft. Did you ever play Child of Light, Tim?
I didn't. No, never did.
Yeah, I feel like if you do try it out in this next week or so, you'll find that it's vastly different to anything that Ubisoft's ever experimented with before. Even like the Rayman, this is a platformer, but it has no resemblance to Rayman or the more recent Rayman games like Rayman Legends or Origins. This is like its own thing, and it's cool. I'm surprised they haven't made a sequel yet, because it's just a really fun, experimental, artsy game. So join us next week as we discuss Child of Light. Alright, moving on to what we're playing next week. Tim, what are you going to be playing next week?
I think I might be doing some more Pokemon Emerald.
Yeah.
With that, I actually just beat the Elite Four. That's cool.
Oh, nice.
Just still on my quest for a shiny Rayquaza.
Of course.
I'll be continuing to do that. Man, I don't know. I still really want to try Morrowind. Morrowind. I picked that up. It was free, and I feel like I really need to try that. So I might do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like Morrowind's going to last you a while. It's going to last you a lot more than Emerald.
I mean, I if it's like the Elder Scrolls games I've played before, then yeah, I would probably expect so. Yeah.
So you're gonna do the in Emerald? Are you gonna do the battle frontier?
Yeah, you know what? I think I will. I was thinking about that because that's not something I've really explored very much. It can actually be pretty hard and
Yeah.
also like kind of weird and confusing. Like they don't, at least I feel like I got the impression at some point that they don't always explain exactly how it works to you. So it was something I
Yeah.
kind of left alone as a kid. But I think I do. I would like to see that through and do
Hmm.
all that.
Yeah, I mean, because back then we didn't have really, uh, universal access to the internet, so it was kind of like we're kind of lost. We're a similar age, so I mean, I think I speak for the both of us when I say that I was lost when I got up to that point because I was like, okay, is this like another Elite Four? Is this like
Yeah.
here? Like, but it was really more of just like a challenge or a means of getting like rare items, from my
Yeah.
understanding of it.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Getting experience, you were just kind of like battle prowess.
Yeah. And you didn't like. I think you didn't get any entries on your Pokedex either,
Oh yeah,
which
that's
doesn't
right.
really make sense because you'd think that'd be the perfect place to do it, like lore wise or like realistically. But they're just like, no, you can't. No, it's banned. Don't you dare bring that Pokedex in here. Well,
I mean,
no.
it would have been so cool if like they teased Gen 4 Pokemon. You know what I'm saying? Like they had people from all over the world and like they had Sinnoh Pokemon. No, I'm not saying like all of them, but like a few, like three or four, and then you have to like keep fighting these people and you'd be like, "Oh, like I just came across like this new Pokemon, man," and you tell your friends about it, kind of thing.
Yeah, actually, that could be kind of cool. I mean, they do that with the anime. They have
Yeah.
like I think in the Gen 3 era, they had like a Munchlax with them, which is later introduced in Gen 4,
Right,
stuff like
right,
that.
right.
And I think Manaphy as well. I mean, that was a whole movie, but yeah, that actually be a cool idea. I mean, that would of course mean that that Game Freak, they're like aware of what at least a handful of the Pokemon will be and what maybe some of their moves would be, or at
And
the very least, like what they look like. I mean, I guess if they change moves around all the time, so they could always change that, but they'd have to know how to make the sprite look. But yeah, that'd be cool.
and I mean, when you think about it, like they'd already be done concepting at that point, because these are like in the middle kind of games. Like Emerald was like a transitional game, so like they would have. I,
Hmm.
I would assume they were already done concepting for Gen 4 at that point. So like, they could have done something, but
Yeah, I guess that's true.
like think about Pokemon Go. Like now we have Melmetal and the other one, his evolution, or is it what are they called? I forgot what they were called. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Does it have an evolution?
Yeah, it's Melmetal and a Brawlic version of Melmetal. I don't remember what it was called. But
I'm googling it.
yeah, but they introduced it in Pokemon Go I think last year. Like no, actually, people were like coming across it in the
Oh
wild,
god,
and
that
they're
thing.
yeah, that
Forgot what
thing.
it looked like.
People were coming across it in the wild, and they were like, "What the hell is this? Is this a Pokemon? Is this a glitch?" Like they didn't know what was going on, and people were kind of like wondering what it was for a day. And then Niantic was like, "Oh, this is actually a new Pokemon." And I think that was brilliant. Like it was a brilliant type of thing to be like, "Yeah, the new Pokemon game is on the way." Like this is a nice tie-in to that. And also another cool thing to incentivize people to go play Pokemon Go. I thought that was an excellent idea, and they didn't have to worry about move sets per se because it's Pokemon Go. Just had to render it.
It's Melton is the
Melton.
small guy, and then
Ah.
Melvin was the big buff boy. Well,
Ah.
generalist, but
Okay, so I mixed it up, but the idea is there. That's basically the idea.
It's kind of a. It's like a ditto with like a metal nut on its head
Yeah,
and a circuit sticking out. It's weird.
yeah. I don't really know what to make of it, to be honest. But all right.
All right, yeah. You do whatever you do, Game Freak.
Yeah, yeah,
Bring us a table Pokemon
yeah.
and call it Mesa. Oh, you can start out with like an end table, and then make like, I don't know, a coffee table,
Yeah.
and then it evolves into a dinner table.
You know, they do that. They do something like that. Do you know what's now on the topic of Pokemon? Not to have an extended talk about Pokemon because we had that last week, but just something off in my mind is they haven't really done anything with like new Pokemon. They haven't really shown off anything yet, have they? With Sword and Shield, it was just the 3 starters. I feel like normally we'd get a lot more information by now. Or is that just me?
Would we?
Yeah, I feel like we'd at least know like what the bird was and the electric mouse. You know, because everyone has a bird, and everyone has an electric mouse. So we don't even know the legendaries. Come to think of it.
Yeah, no.
Hmm.
We don't. It's true.
Interesting. I'm very interested to see like what they're planning. They must be planning something with that, or like how they're gonna release the information. Is it gonna be like a over the summer thing, or very interesting. We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, they'll probably legendaries are usually like pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll have to integrate the whole theming of the Sword and Shield thing.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool.
Yeah. Really, I'm just really interested. I'm just very curious. At this point. All right, so that about wraps it up for this episode of the Time Hop Podcast. Thanks for joining us, everyone. In case you don't know, I'm Dave Lozada. You find me on Twitter at XenoCreator125. Tim Ronan's here. You can find him on King Gamer writing articles as usual. Thank you for joining us. Join us next week as we discuss Child of Light. Thank you, everyone. Have a good week. Bye.
See ya.